It does not need flesh, it does not crave blood. It eats only fear, and it grows fatter each time you scream. Elder Musien of Likombi. Long before the village of Likombi had road, radio, or red chalk circle, it was simply called the edge. The last point before the trees swallowed everything. The forest beyond was vast, dark, and wild. The elders warned children never to cross past the third river stone unless they had an offering in hand and silence in their heart. It was said that beyond the stone, the forest was alive, not with animals, but with the attention of something ancient. But men, being men, grow bold, so it was Ngando, the best hunter of his generation. He was young, tall, proud, and had killed a black panther with a sharpened stick. He feared no beast, no story, no spirit. When the rains failed one season and the game vanished, Ngando and 4 other men ventured beyond the stone. They said they would bring meat or never return. Only one came back. He came crawling through the mud at sunrise, eyes gouged, tongue beaten off, nails torn from his fingers, and on his forehead, scrawled in something dark and wet, was a spiral drawn backwards. He died before he could speak. The elders wept. The forest had taken notice. The rains returned, but the forest did not forgive. Children began to disappear. First 1, then 3. Then a baby pulled from a mother's arms by a shadow that walked backward. Chickens were found without heads, their wings still flapping. And every night the drums began, soft at first, then louder, closer. The sound came from deep in the forest, past the third stone. Yet no matter how far the men went, they could never find the source. It was always beyond. One old woman, Ma Dione, said she had seen the truth. When I was young, before your mothers were born, she said, I followed the drums once. I was foolish, but I saw it, the clearing. She described a place where no trees grew, just cracked earth, old bones, and a single tree made of meat and shadow. From it hung faces, not bodies, just faces nailed in the bark, whispering. And at its base sat a creature with a red mask, smoking a pipe made of bone. It has no name we should speak, she said, but the forest calls it Nkonda, the feeder. It is not a god, it is not a demon, it is older. She warned them, you cannot kill it, you cannot run, you can only keep it fed. Fear ruled the village. Each night, something dragged its nails along the herd. Women miscarried without bleeding. Dreams became infected. One evening, a girl, Lele, only 10 years old, walked into the baobab grove and cut off her own ears. When she was found, she said she could still hear the whispers. The elders gathered and decided they would send a man into the forest, a chosen one, to offer a pact. He would wear the red chalk mask. He would carry goat blood, herbs, and ash. He would go alone. That man was Kima, Ngando's younger brother. He entered the forest on the night of the eclipse. He did not return for 7 days. When he came back, his hair had turned completely white. His eyes had gone dark. He said nothing. Instead, he picked up a calabash, filled it with oil, and began to draw spirals around the village. That was the first protection circle. That was the first keeper. That night, the drums did not play. From the day forward, Likombi followed the rule. Each full moon, an offering was made at the edge of the forest. a hen, a rabbit, a drop of blood from the keeper's palm. At midnight, a circle of chalk was drawn around the baobab tree. No one spoke of the clearing, not even in whispers. And the most important rule, do not scream. Nkonda does not feed on flesh. That is for lesser things. It feeds on something rarer, more intoxicating. Fear, true, pure fear. It waits in the darkness, its mask always watching. It listens to your breath quicken, to your heartbeat rise, to the moment you realize you are not alone. Those who scream feed it best, and when it is full, it sleeps. When it is hungry, it walks. The keeper's job was to keep the fear at bay, to absorb it through chants, rituals, and control. But if a keeper ever dies without passing the path, the hunger returns. That is what happened in Likombi when Grandmother Bene passed without a successor. One every decade, a child is chosen to become the next keeper. They are brought blindfolded to the baobab tree, where they are marked with red chalk and made to wear the trial mask. They are left there until sunrise. If the child wakes alive, silent and unafraid, they are trained. If they cry, scream or run, they are never seen again. It is said that the mask does not merely hide the face, it whispers. It speaks in a voice that sounds like every fear you've ever had, and it shows the visions of what you would become if you let it in. Many do not survive the trial. Some survive, but never speak again. One boy, Ato, was said to have passed the trial, but refused the title. I saw my future, he said, and in it, I was not protecting the village, I was feeding it. The elders erased his name. You might think these are just stories for the village, for the bush, for the old world. But Nkonda is not bound by geography. Once a boy from Likombi moved to Douala for school, he stopped observing the rite. He mocked the old ways, said the spiral was village nonsense. He began waking up at 3:33 a.m. Always at that time. He heard drums in his bathroom. He saw faces in mirrors that were not his own. His girlfriend found him one morning, curled in the corner of the kitchen, mouth full of soil, arms folded like a corpse, eyes wide open. On the wall, written in blood, was a spiral. Some say if you are born in Likombi, the pact follows you. Nkonda is not the god of a place. Nkonda is the god of fear itself, and fear lives everywhere. Centuries later, when the story of Nkonda was nearly forgotten by the world, a tourist, an American documentarian, came to Likombi. He wanted authentic African ghost stories for his film. He heard whispers of the red mask and paid a local to take him past the third river stone. They laughed, drank beer, filmed the trees. That night, the local man ran back home, screaming that the foreigner was gone. He said he'd seen a tree open up and swallow him whole. The American's camera was found a week later. The footage showed him in the forest, following drums, alone. Then he starts to whisper, "It's behind me. It's wearing a red mask. It knows my name." Then started the final frame, a single spiral drawn in red, slowly rotating on the screen. The documentary was never released. Today, Likombi is not on any maps. No one goes there unless they are called. But sometimes, people in nearby villages say they hear drums in the distance, even though no one is playing. Sometimes, a spiral appears on a child's door. Sometimes, a voice whispers a name that hasn't been spoken in years. And sometimes, at exactly midnight, someone wakes up screaming. They always say the same thing. I saw it. It was wearing a mask. It knew I was afraid. In the remote Cameroonian village of Likombe, a university student returns for his grandmother's funeral. But when ancient rituals are neglected and old pacts broken, something ancient is unleashed in the forest. A chilling, suspense-filled tale of folklore, fear, and what waits in the shadows after midnight. The forest was too quiet. Even the crickets had stopped chirping. Neba stared out the cracked window of the battered yellow taxi, watching the dense Cameroonian jungle press in on both sides. The air was thick with humidity, and the smell of red earth and rotting leaves filled the cabin. His phone had lost signal miles ago. The road was little more than a dirt scar cutting through the forest. Every few seconds, the taxi jostled violently as it hit a hidden root or stone. "You say your people are from Likombe?" the driver asked, not looking away from the path ahead. Neba nodded, wiping sweat from his forehead. "My mother grew up there." The driver sucked his teeth. "Strange place, bad air. The kind of place where things don't stay there." Neba frowned. "What does that mean?" The driver didn't answer. He just mumbled something in Bassa and kept driving. They reached Likombe at sunset. The village was scattering of mud huts with thatched roofs, wrapped in the arms of thick ancient forest. A single gnarled baobab tree stood at the center like a sentinel. Shadows stretched long across the red earth. Children paused in their play to stare. Old women watched from behind closed veils. He stepped out with his backpack. The only sound, the buzz of mosquitoes. His aunt Clara waited at the edge of the family compound. Tall, thin, and wrapped in a dark wrapper, she looked like a statue carved from ash. "You are late," she said. "I came as fast as I could," Neba replied. "Your grandmother waited for you. She spoke your name before she passed. You were not there." He lowered his gaze. Clara turned and walked into the house. That night, they buried grandmother Bene. There was no priest, no prayers, just a few murmured chants and the whisper of the wind. They laid her body wrapped in white cloth in the dry earth behind the compound. As the last of the soil was shoveled over her, Neba noticed something odd. Symbols drawn in red chalk around the grave, circular patterns he didn't recognize. He asked his aunt about it. She was the last keeper, Clara said. Now the pact is broken. What pact? Clara didn't reply. That night, Neba lay on a bamboo mat under a torn mosquito net, trying to sleep. The sounds of the village, goats, wind, rustling trees began to fade. Then he heard it, a single drum beat. It echoed from deep in the forest. Then another, louder, closer. He sat up, heart pounding. From the small window, he saw movement by the baobab tree. A figure stood beneath it, tall, dressed in what looked like animal skins. A mask covered its face, smooth, round, painted red, with two slits for eyes. It didn't move. Then it did. It turned slowly and pointed toward him. Neba jumped back. When he looked again, the figure was gone. The next morning, he confronted Clara. There was someone out there, wearing a mask. Clara was grinding herbs with a stone mortar. You should not have looked out. It sees you now. What sees me? She sighed and sat. Long ago, the forest god, Nkonda, demanded balance. Life for life, harvest for sacrifice. Our people made a pact. The keeper, your grandmother, marked the graves, prepared the offerings. It kept the peace. And now that she is dead, the pact is broken. So what happens? Clara looked him dead in the eyes. It walked again at midnight. He thought she was mad until the livestock started dying. The first was a goat found hanging by its hind legs from a tree, entrails laid out in a perfect spiral. The next day, a child vanished. Then, a man was found clothed open, his face frozen in a scream. The villagers whispered, Nkonda had returned, and it wanted neighbor. Neighbor tried to leave, but every path out of the village twisted back. Roads that should have led to town led him deeper into the bush. GPS didn't work. Batteries drained in minutes. At night, the drums returned. Boom, boom, always at midnight. One night, Clara gave him a bundle of herbs and a small mask carved from ebony. You must go into the forest. Speak with the whispering tree. It is the only way to renew the pact. He didn't want to, but he had no choice. By torchlight, he entered the forest. The trees closed around him like reeds. Shadows danced. Things moved at the edge of sight. Once, he heard something breathing behind him, wet, hungry. He reached a clearing. At its center stood a tree unlike any other. Silver bark, black leaves, the whispering tree. As he approached, whispers filled his ears, not from outside, but inside his head. He broke the circle. I didn't. He must offer what was taken. Suddenly, the ground cracked open. A hand reached out, then a face, his grandmother's. Her eyes were hollow, her mouth open in a silent scream. You let me die alone, she rasped. And then Nkonda rose, massive, on, masked. Its body was a writhing mass of branches, hairs, and shadows. You are the bloodline. You will restore balance. Never scream. He awoke at dawn, alone in the clearing, clutching the ebony mask. He stumbled back to the village, blood on his hands, not knowing whose. Clara was waiting. It is done. I don't know, he whispered. She led him to the baobab. The new circle had been drawn. The drums had stopped. That night, the air felt lighter. No screams, no shadows. Never left the next day. As he walked past the edge of the forest, he felt something watching. He didn't look back. Weeks later, back at university, he dreamed of the forest, of the tree, of the mask, and always, always the drums. Boom, boom, boom. Then one night, he awoke to find a symbol drawn in red chalk on his dorm wall, a spiral, just like the one at the grave. He wiped it away, heart pounding. The next night, it returned. The third night, he heard footsteps outside his door at midnight. Not human ones, dragging cloud. He opened the door to find nothing. But far down the hallway, at the end where the lights flickered, the figure stood, wearing a red mask, and the drums began again. Because some pacts never end, they only sleep until midnight. In southern Congo, an ancient forest is feared for one reason. Those who enter it forget who they are. Some never return, others emerge different. When a young school teacher, Zara, leads a student search party into the outskirts of this forest, she finds herself in a place where time bends, identities dissolve, and names have power, terrifying, irreversible. They said she walked into the forest humming. 9-year-old Aliyah, smart, curious, a little defiant, vanished just after her morning chores. Her slippers, were found beside the mango grove, pointing east toward the ancient forest the elders never named. The villagers only whispered about it. They called it Esolo Yabaka, the forest that eats. Zara, Alia's teacher, was the first to raise the alarm. She had only been in the village 6 months, transferred from Kinshasa for a government placement. The local children adored her, Elia especially, bright-eyed, always asking questions. Zara had taught her how to read a map, write poems, count in Swahili. So when Alia disappeared, Zara took it personally. The village chief, Mama Dudu, shook her head. If she went into that place, we must accept it. The forest takes what it is owed. That's nonsense, Zara said. She's just a child. No, Dudu said quietly. She's already forgotten. Zara refused to believe it. She gathered a search party. 4 young men with machetes, 1 old hunter named Mbuta, who once claimed to have touched the edge of the cursed grove. I'll guide you to the boundary, he said, but no further. Why? She asked. He looked at her with cloudy eyes. Because the further you go, the more you forget why you entered. Then you forget your name. Then you forget how to live. She almost laughed until she noticed the other villagers backing away as Mbuta spoke. They believed it. The next morning, they set off at first light. The villagers stood in silence as the group disappeared into the mist. Zara carried Alia's notebook in her pack. She wasn't superstitious, but something about it felt grounding. It had the child's name written in blue marker across the front, Alia Lukusa. She kept repeating it as they walked. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. No birds, no insects, just the soft crunch of leaves and the breathing of the men around her. After 2 hours, the forest changed. The trees grew closer together. The light dimmed, though the sky above was cloudless. A wet, earthy smell filled the air, like soil after rain, but older, heavier. Then the first man turned back. Cassie, one of the machete boys, dropped his blade. I need to go back, he mumbled. My brother. Your brother's in Kinshasa, one of the others said. No, I think he's. Cassie blinked. Wait, what was I doing? Zara stepped forward. You are helping find Alia. Who? Something shifted in his eyes. Mbuta grabbed him by the shoulder. Go now. Do not turn around once you leave. Walk backward until you see the sun. Cassie did as told. They continued with 3 men. It took 3 more hours to reach it, a clearing, dead quiet. In the center stood a massive tree with strips of cloth tied to every branch. Hundreds of them, fluttering without wing. Zara stepped closer. Names were written on each strip, some in ink, some scratched, some in chalk, all fading. She reached out to touch one. Don't, Mbuta warned. Why? These are the names it already ate. One of the young men laughed nervously. You people and your stories. He pulled the cloth of the tree. Instantly, his face went blank. He looked at them all, confused. Where am I? He said, Who are you? Zara screamed. Mbuta shouted, Don't speak your name. It listens. The man began to tremble. My name is... Before he could finish, something moved in the trees. not walking, sliding, humming, just like Aliyah. They ran. Zara clutched Aliyah's notebook, heart pounding. The man who spoke his name stood still, mouth open, humming the same tune Aliyah loved, off-key and slow, like it had decayed in his throat. The trees seemed to twist around them. No path, no direction. Only Mbuta kept his head, muttering prayers, sprinkling white powder from a pouch into the air. It confuses memory, he said. You must not think of yourself, only of her, only Aliyah. Zara opened the notebook. Aliyah Lukusa. She whispered, again, it helped. The darkness receded slightly, then they saw her. Aliyah standing under a vine-covered ark, smiling. Miss Zara? She said brightly. Zara ran to her. Mbuta screamed, don't! But it was too late. Zara grabbed the girl's hand, and the world went black. She woke alone, no bag, no notebook. The forest had changed. The trees glowed faintly, like breath caught in glass. She heard laughter, that it echoed wrong, like it bounced through different mouths. Footsteps, then Aliyah again, or something wearing her shape. You came for me? Zara backed away. What's your name? Aliyah asked. Zara paused. She knew it, didn't she? Why was it hard to say? I. Her voice shook. Aliyah stepped closer. Say it. Something moved behind the girl. A second Aliyah, then a third, then dozens. All versions of the same child, but twisted, melting eyes, hollow cheeks, stretching shadows. They chanted, say your name, say your name. Zara covered her ears. No. A distant voice echoed, Mbuta. Your name is not yours in this place. Zara screamed. I won't say it. The forest screamed back. Zara ran. She had no idea where she was going, but she clutched the sound in her mind. Aliyah's laughter before the forest, on the school steps, on spelling test day. She pictured the notebook. She whispered the child's name like a spell. Aliyah Lukusa, Aliyah Lukusa. Then she saw her, the real one, crouched by a stream, eyes dull but breathing. Zara dropped beside her. Aliyah, it's me, we have to go. Aliyah looked up. Ooh, Zara felt it slipping again. She opened her palm, the spiral pattern, drawn in dirt, over and over. Zara took Aliyah's hand, drew the spiral between them. Remember, you are Aliyah. I'm Zara. We are real. We are not cloth on a tree. Aliyah blinked. Tears fell. I want to go home. They rose and walked through the forest backward as Mbuta had taught. They emerged into light. The village erupted in gasps. Mbuta had returned an hour before, alone, blood on his face, eyes wild. Now he wept. Aliyah was sick. Zara collapsed. For days she slept. When she woke, she held the notebook, her name written inside, shakily by a child's hand. Miss Zara, in case you forget. She cried for a long time. She left the village a week later, but sometimes in dreams she hears humming, and she wakes with one fear, that her name is no longer hers.